Get him to the Greek. Am I right, guys? Am I right? No. Hey guys, welcome back. Project 95. We're looking at September 29th, 1995, where they played at the legendary Greek Theater in Los Angeles, California. So they did the first 4 nights of the tour in California, all different cities. They did the same thing in Florida when they ended up migrating eastward. That the Florida was the same thing, and it's just so different than the way they tour now, right? Minimal runs. They did 2 nights in Seattle. They did 2 nights in Austin, and they did 3 nights at the Fox in Atlanta, and they did 2 nights at UMass. That's it. Outside of New Year's. Oh, Lake Placid. They closed out 2 nights in Lake Placid. So like this tour was very aggressive, as it were. And lots of driving, lots of travel, lots of, like, once you get to the Midwest, there's tons of like backtracking, but that's the last thing you're thinking about. You're just psyched to be going to another show. Like, I get to go to a show tomorrow. Like, I remember feeling that, like having that sustained feeling of just sheer joy every day, regardless of how long I'd been driving or how tired I was, or how my tour pains were kicking in. I get to go to another show. Like, I just kept thinking that. So the Greek Theater was so cool. I referred to it at the time and for a while as Red Rocks with Trees. And I think that rings true. I haven't been there in 30 years. But that's what it felt like to me. I took the obligatory pit stop at Red Rocks on my way across the country. Just, they weren't playing there, which was kind of a bummer. This is post they got banned from Red Rocks. So that sucked, because they probably would have played there. And they played those legendary shows June of '94 there. Actually, they weren't banned because they went back in '96, but whatever. Like, they weren't playing there when I was going out. But I went to Red Rocks just to be at Red Rocks. And I remember I think I have a picture of just this empty amphitheater. Just like, but it was, sacred ground kind of thing. And it was obviously a lot of red rocks around. Like, you're engulfed by rocks, right? So at the Greek, that it felt like that, except you were engulfed by trees, pine trees, and just it was an arboretum. I don't know. Something like that. So I was at Red Rocks with Trees, and now I'm 3 nights into hanging out, kind of loosely hanging out with Chris and Spence. And I think if I remember, I sat with them at the Greek. I definitely sat with them tomorrow night at Shoreline. But the Greek was kind of a cool show. You'll notice that the timing. What's kind of interesting about this is, so this is set 1 was an hour, and set 2 was an hour, basically. So they're not playing these crazy sort of all night, blowouts. everything's pretty tight. And even the nights before, roughly, they're playing basically 1 hour sets. Different times for sure. So again, Strange Design again, I think the second time on the tour. Jazz Jam, question mark? What is this Jazz Jam they keep playing? I'd love to know. But this was only one question mark, so maybe I was starting to figure it out. First set YEM? Huh? It's a totally different like show structure than what you're used to if you're going to been going to shows only for the last like 10 years or so. They also didn't have the song library that they have now. So rotation became a thing, and you kind of knew what was coming in terms of like the big set pieces. Like you could tell when they were coming because it was about like a 5-day rotation, and you'd get your Bowie on a 5-day, you'd get your YM, you'd get your Hood, your Slave, your Tweezer, your Antelope, like all the set pieces in a pretty steady rotation. And then they're sprinkling in, like I said yesterday, a lot of work, a lot of tweaking of songs like Fog That Surrounds, obviously, even Strange Design, Jazz Jam, all that kind of stuff. They're working through that. Not at all unlike what they did with Gaiute. They debuted Gaiute in the fall of '94 at Lehigh, a show that I was at with Fisher and McCabe, some Jam Boys, early Jam Boys core. And they debuted that, and you listen to those Gaiutes through the fall of '94, and they hung it up. They hung it up until I remember talking about it in '95. People were like, is Gaiute gone? Like, is it done? And the talk was they're reworking it. Because at the time, on tour, that was big talk. Was like, okay, are we going to get a Brother? Like, I remember chasing Brother hard. Tube. It was rumored that they hung up Tube. And hung up means they're not playing it ever again. At least as far as we know. I remember, well, I'll tell the Tube story when we get there, but so just the show structure had different rules than now, and Jam Boys will always sort of giggle about how pick the opener. Well, you had a shot in 1995 to pick the opener. Like if you picked DC Bag or Punch You in the Eye, like you'd be right like 1 out of every 4 shows. Now they don't have like true openers and closers, and now everything's so fluid. They can put any song in any slot, and it's, I don't know if it's better or worse. I'm just saying it's more difficult to play the call the opener game, right? So the first at YM, I can't explain to you guys, if you weren't around in the 90s, how big a deal Susie was. Like Susie Greenberg was, I remember it was a song that kind of got me into the band because it was one of the Phish songs that Libby and the Lurkers played, which was a band at Lemoyne College where I went. And Fisher, one of the Jam Boys, was the guitarist. He was my conduit to Phish, basically, the actual Phish, the band. And they used to play Susie, and I'm like, what is that song? And it's like, oh, it's a Phish song. Susie was a big deal. Now I think people are like, yeah, whatever. It's one of those old ones. Susie was a big deal. So if before you're watching these videos, you're looking at my notes that I posted, you're starting to see the beginnings of my sort of rating system, in that I'm not just I'm not just documenting the songs without emotion. I'm starting to put in, there's a Trey exclamation point next to Yamar from the Greek. That's just the very early stages of my my rating system, where I'm starting to comment on the songs as they're playing in real time, recording like my initial reactions to, like, oh, they're playing Yamar, oh, Trey's, like, that was cool, whatever. And you'll start to see it more as we go. I'm just finding a voice, I guess, in recording these sets and set lists. The highlight had to be, they played Crying by Aerosmith, and it was a Fishman tune, and he comes out full scarves on the mic stand, wearing scarves. He has the lyrics in his hand, does a vacuum solo. I believe it's the only time they played that song. Why didn't they bring that back? Oh, because it's a trash song. I mean, it was hilarious, them doing it. But they played Day in the Life right after it, so they're like a little palate cleanser. And then like a Chalk Dust encore. Like now, if you looked at that, if you had your present brain and you saw Chalk Dust encore, you'd be like, oh my god. But all the Chalk Dusts were like, as Bob would say, just a tight 4-minute album. Chalk Dust. That is what you were getting, especially with Chalk Dust. They didn't really start opening up Chalk Dust until, what was it? The Went. I think it was the Went. Yeah, the Went. They did that. Long one, but just a really fun show. Again, psyched to be at Red Rocks with Trees, and just really psyched to, again, have another show to go to tomorrow. That feeling, I still love that feeling. Like whenever we do like 3-night runs, like there's nothing like it. Just settle in and go to there, as it were. All right, I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow in I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow in Mountain View, Bay Area, Shoreline. Another legendary venue made most famous by the Dead. In fact, didn't Billy Graham build it for them, basically, as like a home base? I'll see you guys tomorrow on Trey's birthday in Mountain View.